Alright, this is Scantron Test Prep 9, and in this lesson we're going to review bar graphs and probability. We're not going to write anything for the bar graphs. I'm just going to show you the example because they're pretty easy. Okay, so if we take a look at the bar graph that's provided, and the question might be, according to the graph, who sold the most cookbooks? Okay, so we'll just take a look at the names of the people, and if it's the most, we'll want the bar that is the highest. And so we take a look, and Zoe sold the most cookbooks. All right, they might also say, well, how many cookbooks have Zoe and Anne sold? So if you're talking about Zoe and Anne, how many have they sold? How do we figure that out, Allison? So Anne sold 4, Zoe sold 12, we'll add them, and then we get 16. They might also say something like, Bob sold 8 and Anne sold 4, what's the difference? So then you would just subtract. Okay, so any questions about using a bar graph? Those are pretty basic. Oh, and on your test, if the graph does not give you these lines, just take your scratch sheet of paper and hold the paper up to the screen so that you can see a straight line and know the correct measurement.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now on the probability. So most of your probability questions will deal with marbles, the colors of things, dice, coins, or a deck of cards. So the first problem they give us actually has to do with some marbles and the colors. So let's write down the colors of the marbles that they give us. There are 6 green, 3 orange, 2 blue, and 1 black. And let's say we place all of these marbles into a box. And then the question is, what is the probability that either an orange or a black will be selected? Okay, so in order to solve this problem, first of all, let's see, what are our choices here? We want orange or black. So what's the total of orange and black combined? 4. So we have 3 orange, 1 black. So we have 4 orange or black. And then now we also need to look at the total possibilities. How many total marbles do we have? Just look at 6, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so we have 12 total. All right, so then when we write our answer, you can write it as a ratio. Remember, there are 3 ways to write a ratio. You can write it with a colon. We have 4 to 12. You can write it with words, with the word 2, or most of the time you'll see it as a fraction. Now, what we'll need to do is reduce. Almost all of these questions require simplest form. So you have to look at the 4 and the 12, and they're both divisible by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So then, you might see it in words as a final answer that you have a 1 out of 3 chance to win. Okay, are there any questions on that type of problem? Okay, well, several problems I noticed are about decks of cards. So some of you know about decks of cards, but many of you don't. So let me write down some facts about decks of cards. A standard deck of cards has 52 cards. All of this is important information for you to be able to solve these problems. A standard deck has 4 suits. Alright, and these suits are called spades. And a spade kind of looks like a leaf. I draw it as sort of an upside down heart with a stem. You'll have clubs, which is like a clover. Diamonds. And hearts. Now, in case they ask you a color associated question with the cards, spades are black, clubs are black, diamonds are red, and hearts are red. Hopefully, because the test is on the computer, if they ask a color associated question, you'll be able to see the colors on the computer screen. Okay, and then each of these 4 suits has 13 cards. So each suit has 13 cards. All right, and here are those 13 cards. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, Jack, Queen, King, Ace. So if I'm looking at this deck of cards, each of the 4 suits has all of these 13 cards. How many 2s are there in the entire deck?
4.
There's 4. How many 10s are there in the deck?
4.
How many queens are there in the deck?
4.
Okay, so there are 4 of all of these cards. All right, but what if the question says, what is the probability of drawing a 4 of diamonds? Okay, so how many 4s were there
4.
in the whole deck? Okay, 4 if you're counting all 4 suits. But how many 4 of diamonds are there?
1.
There's just 1 4 of diamonds. So our chances, we've got 1 4 of diamonds. And how many total cards are there in the deck?
52.
There's 52 total cards. So then our chance is 1 out of 52. Okay, but if they said, what is the probability of drawing a 9? Just a 9. How many chances are there to get a 9? Any 9?
4.
There's 4 because there's 1 in each suit. 4 out of how many cards?
52.
Out of 52. But is 4 out of 52 in simplest form?
No.
No. So I will have to divide and reduce that down to find a final answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now, you'll also have a lot of coin questions with probability. All right, so what is the probability of, well, actually, let me rework that. Let's scratch that. Predict how many times a coin would land on tails if you flip it 26 times. Okay, so predict how many times a coin could land on tails if you flip it 26 times. Well, what are the choices on a coin? It's either going to land on heads or tails. So you've got two choices. So if I flip it 26 times, what should I do to find out what probability it is that it would land on tails? Yeah, just take your 26 and it's two choices. So the probability is that it would land on tails 13 times. So when you have a prediction problem like this, like let's say you have a dice or a number cube that has 6 sides. You just take the total number of times you roll it, divide it by 6 if you just have one number, like the probability it'll land on a 5 on a number cube. Because there's only one 5 on a number cube. Yes. Okay. All right, any questions on the coin?